Bitcoin is often described as digital gold, the future of money, and one of the most important financial innovations of our time. It has attracted investors, builders, and dreamers who believe in a future where money is decentralized, censorship resistant, and borderless. But despite its incredible growth and adoption, Bitcoin is not invincible. In this video, we are going to talk about the biggest dangers facing Bitcoin today. Some of these risks are external, things like government regulation, energy concerns, or competition. Others are internal, problems with the community, scalability, or even the way people perceive Bitcoin itself. If you're invested in Bitcoin or just curious about its future, it's important to be aware of both the opportunities and the risks. So let's go through the major dangers one by one. The first danger is government regulation and bans. One of the most obvious risks for Bitcoin is government action. Governments thrive on controlling money. It's what gives them power to tax, inflate, and fund their priorities. Bitcoin, by its nature, takes the control away and gives it to individuals. We've already seen attempts to restrict Bitcoin. China has banned mining multiple times, and some countries have banned exchanges or made it very difficult to buy and sell. Even in places like the United States or Europe, there's always a risk of stricter rules, whether it's heavy taxation, surveillance of wallets, or outright restrictions on using Bitcoin for payments. The reality is, it's very hard to ban Bitcoin completely because it's decentralized. But governments can make it inconvenient enough that average people hesitate to use it. That's a danger we can't ignore. The second danger is energy and environmental concerns. Another big criticism of Bitcoin is its energy use. Bitcoin mining consumes a lot of electricity, and critics argue it's wasteful and harmful for the environment. While supporters point out that much of Bitcoin mining uses renewable energy or excess energy that would otherwise go to waste, the negative narrative is still powerful. If the world shifts harder toward climate regulations, Bitcoin could become a target. Governments might restrict mining, raise energy costs, or try to push people away from Bitcoin under the argument that it harms the planet. This is both a PR problem and a political problem for Bitcoin. If the public perception remains that Bitcoin is bad for the environment, it could slow adoption even if the reality is more nuanced. Danger number 3, technological competition. Bitcoin was the first successful cryptocurrency, but it's not the only one. Ethereum, for example, has built a whole ecosystem of decentralized finance and applications. Other blockchains focus on speed, scalability, or energy efficiency. Now, Bitcoin has the strongest brand, the largest network, and the most secure proof-of-work system. But the danger is that younger generations might see it as outdated technology if they're more drawn to blockchains that do more than just store value. There's also the possibility that governments or corporations launch their own digital currencies, like central bank digital currencies, what's known as CBDCs. While CBDCs won't replace Bitcoin's decentralization, they could capture public attention and make people less interested in holding Bitcoin. Danger number 4 is centralization of mining. Even though Bitcoin is decentralized, mining has become increasingly concentrated in a few large companies and mining pools. If a small group controls too much of the network's hash rate, that could become a vulnerability. For example, if one group ever controlled more than 50% of the mining power, they could theoretically manipulate transactions, censor certain addresses, or double spend coins. While this is extremely unlikely and not profitable long term, the risk still exists. Centralization also creates regulatory risk. If most miners are concentrated in one country, like the US for example, that government could crack down and exert outside influence on the network. Danger number 5 is losing the narrative. Bitcoin is not just code, it's a story. The story of Bitcoin is that it's the hardest money ever invented, immune to inflation and outside of government control. But narratives can change. If people start believing Bitcoin is too slow, too expensive to use, or just a speculative bubble, adoption could slow down. If the media consistently portrays Bitcoin as only useful for criminals or as boomer tech compared to flashier blockchains, people might lose interest. Maintaining Bitcoin's cultural and financial narrative as the best money is essential. If Bitcoin loses that story, demand might weaken even if underlying technology stays strong. Danger number 6. Security risks over time. Right now, Bitcoin security is incredibly strong because miners are paid with the new Bitcoin for securing the network, but over time, block rewards will shrink as Bitcoin approaches its 21 million cap. Eventually, miners will be paid mostly through transaction fees. The big question is, will transaction fees be enough to secure the network? If not, mining power could drop, leaving Bitcoin more vulnerable to attacks. It's a long-term issue, but it's something to keep in mind. Danger number 7 is human error and custody risks. Unlike a bank account, if you lose your Bitcoin private keys, your money is gone forever. There's no customer support, no reset button, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin have already been lost due to people misplacing wallets, forgetting passwords, or making mistakes. This is a danger for mass adoption. Many people are intimidated by the responsibility of self-custody. If the majority of Bitcoin ends up held on centralized exchanges, that reintroduces the risks of traditional banking, hackable servers, bad management, or even fraud, like we saw with FTX. And finally, danger number 8 is black swan events. Finally, there's always the chance of the unexpected. Maybe it's a major bug in Bitcoin's code that no one saw coming. Maybe it's a breakthrough in quantum computing that threatens cryptography. Maybe it's some global event that shifts public attention away from Bitcoin completely. The truth is, no one can predict black swan events, but there are always a risk in any system, including Bitcoin. So in conclusion, those are the biggest dangers facing Bitcoin. Governments trying to control or ban it, environmental criticisms and energy concerns, competitions from other blockchains or CBDCs, mining centralization, losing the cultural narrative, long-term security challenges, custody risks and human error, and unpredictable black swan events. Now, here's the important part. Every single one of these risks is real, but none of them are guaranteed to kill Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin has survived every single challenge thrown at it so far. Bans, hacks, crashes, and criticism. And it keeps coming back stronger. Understanding the risks doesn't mean you shouldn't invest in Bitcoin. In fact, I am very pro Bitcoin myself. It means you can invest with your eyes open, prepared for the volatility, the setbacks, and the battles ahead. Because if Bitcoin continues to survive, it could become one of the most powerful assets in history. So, do you think Bitcoin's biggest danger comes from governments, from technology, or from within its own community? Let me know in the comments. Of course, none of what I'm saying is financial advice, it's all just my own opinions. If you enjoyed this video and you want more no BS Bitcoin videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and I'ma see you in the next one.